Good morning, good morning. So in the spirit of movement, we're going to stand too, so we can move around a little bit. Lot of discussion. Kristen accused me of being Melania Trump because there was a ton of discussion over what we were going to wear today. You're a pretty dignified audience, so I thought, geez, do I have to wear a suit and all that? And after all that discussion, we ended up wearing the same thing. So
we didn't plan it.
Yeah. So anyways, this is Craig, I'm John, and we're going to talk to you a bit about Reebok and the transformation that we've been undergoing over the last couple of years. And Craig is our CFO. As you heard from Blake, I'm a marketing guy essentially, and we work as close partners every day. And what we thought would be kind of fun is to have a bit of a conversation up here. I'll ask some questions, but I need all of you to also ask some questions as we go and be engaged, and I'll cue that. We have some people that are going to have some microphones, and we'll do it that way. And I think one of the things you need to know about Craig, he's a great partner of mine, but he's the CFO, but he's also been the head of our transformation office. So he's what I would call a pretty activist CFO within our company. He's really driving change throughout Reebok. And we'll get into that and we'll talk a bit about Muscle Up. But what I'd like to start with is we heard from Blake, and Blake had a really interesting background. And I know, Craig, you grew up in a pretty interesting place yourself. So why don't you tell us about that?
Absolutely. Thanks, John. Good morning, everybody. I probably have a pretty untraditional background to get to a CFO role, and I grew up at the Oregon coast. So for anybody been to Oregon? Any hands? A few of you. But I grew up on a dairy farm. So I grew up as a kid. By the time I was, 7, 8, 10 years old, hands dirty, driving tractors, and it's one of these things in my life that's taught me a work ethic. I'm not afraid of getting my hands dirty, as John knows, not afraid of being in the details if need be. But I graduated school with an accounting degree, like many of you in the room. And one of the things I found coming out of college was, a little company that was being run out of Portland was a U.S. subsidiary of Adidas. And I fell in love with this as I joined there at 20 years old. I don't know if I've told you this story, but there's probably some Red Sox fans in here, so I apologize. But on my first day, I'm coming back from lunch, and there's a sign in the lobby that says, Adidas welcomes Reggie Jackson. And so I'm walking down the hall, and I'm a big baseball guy, like probably a lot of people in the room, and I run into Reggie Jackson and have the pleasure to meet him. And I was hooked, kind of day one, hooked on the sports business. And but I spent many years actually working on the operational side of the business. So within 7, 8 years, I was running demand planning and purchasing for Adidas. And about 12 years ago, I really wanted to push myself back into the finance organization. So I did. So I moved back into finance about 12 years ago. Ran a number of different roles over the course of the next 7 or 8 years in Portland. And about 5 years ago, almost to the day now, I got a phone call saying, hey, would you be interested in moving to Boston? And at the time, I had 2 very little children, like 2 and 1, and was one of these things that I wasn't really up for initially. After a lot of conversations, I was pushed to do it, and quite honestly, it's maybe one of the best things I've ever done. I don't regret it to this day. And over the last 5 years, I've really had the ability to go beyond finance, right? It's my title, it's my core responsibility, but as John mentioned, we've been under a really big transformation work, and I've had the pleasure of leading it and really learning a lot about the business, not only here in America, but around the world as well. So very, very good journey.
And besides meeting Reggie Jackson, any other career pivotal moments for you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really pride myself by doing multiple roles over the years is being able to connect the dots. So I've done roles on the operations side, like I've said. I've ran marketing operations for the Adidas company a couple different times. I've done some IT roles over the years, and it's really helped me to be able to connect the dots. And as a finance leader, I feel like I need to be able to see the whole picture, right? And not just, hey, let's close the books and regurgitate the numbers, but also know what's making them tick. Why did they happen this way? And because of all the roles I've held over the years, I'm able to see that bigger picture in a really quick and fast manner.
Now, a lot of the younger people also refer to having a side hustle. And when you were in Portland, you had a side hustle in the basketball world.
Yeah. So one of my, you're really pulling out some good ones here, by the way.
We've traveled a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. So one of the really kind of cool things I got the opportunity to do for many years, I was telling this story to somebody just this weekend, actually, was some friends of mine, his father-in-law was the head statistician for the Trailblazers, so the Portland Trailblazers, since the day they opened in the early 70s. And 15, 16, almost maybe 20 years ago, he decided to retire. And so got a phone call one day, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And at the time, I was probably, 25 years old, 26 years old. I'm like, absolutely. And so I spent about 15 years, give or take, sitting courtside doing stats for the Trailblazers. And it evolved a lot during those years, from doing it on paper to touchscreen computers. But over the years, I've seen a lot of basketball, a lot of great players, from Jordan to LeBron to Kobe. I've been on the ends of the LeBron chalk, if anybody knows what I'm talking about.
Favorite player?
Brandon Roy.
Brandon Roy. Oh, he's a good one. It was a shame, though.
Too bad knees.
All right, so we're going to shift gears a little bit and get into Reebok. And I think to just set the stage, we'll give you the 1-minute lightning tour of what Reebok is all about, and then we'll get into what Muscle Up is and all of that. But Reebok actually started in 1895 in Bolton, England, and first guys that drove a spike into a shoe were Reebok guys way back when. But most people know the brand as it kind of blossomed in the 80s, and are there a few people here that are old enough to remember that? You're CFOs, so maybe you're a little bit older. So the 80s, you remember aerobics, and it was really focused on women at the time, and that went on for a number of years, and really was a brand that empowered women to be fit, and you saw that in the opening video as well. That really is a brand video that we use internally, but gives you the sense of the brand and fitness and all that. Of course, over the years, the brand also evolved into many sports and did a lot of different things, and competed, and had the NFL contract and lots of different athletes, and did all of that. But really, at its core, the brand is a fitness brand. And in about a little over 10 years ago now, we were acquired by Adidas. The Reebok brand is owned by Adidas, which is out of Germany. And Adidas, as they say in Germany, Adidas as you probably know it more as. And as the two brands existed, it was decided that Reebok would focus mainly on fitness, back to its heritage, back to its core, and let the Adidas brand be more focused on sport and team sport, soccer, team sports, even in the US, like football and others, baseball. So here we are at fitness. This is what we are, and our mission as a brand is to be the best fitness brand in the world. And we took many great pains to change and refocus the brand to do that. We changed the partners that we had. We changed the product line that we have. We changed the marketing that we have, all of that, and made a ton of progress. But there was other steps that needed to be taken, and in many ways, I think Reebok made all of these changes, but still had another step in the transformation. So maybe, Craig, can you take us back to sort of 2016 into 2017 and what the thought process was?
Yeah, so a lot of things really necessitated this transformation journey that we're on. And really kind of two pivotal things. One, as many of you might know, we welcomed a new CEO, new chairman to our business in 2016, and somebody who was ultimately charged by our shareholders and our supervisory board to improve the profitability of the Adidas company. If you look back on the Adidas company, on average, we were between 5 and 6 points, depending on the year, behind our competitors, and this was something that we wanted to fix. And he really went around the world and said, hey, what's dilutive to the company? And not to get into any numbers, but what we can say is the Reebok brand was dilutive to the total company. And this was really built, and what really happened as a occurrence of currency fluctuations. So one of the big things in our business is we've got a really large business overseas, whether it's in Russia, in Europe, China. And one of the things we've seen over the last 24, 36 months is the strength of the US dollar, right? Our profits were coming from all of these other places, and the strength of the US dollar has really caused us some pain. And this really basically necessitated us to really rethink what we do and how we do it and why we do it. And I think originally our program, which we call Muscle Up, and I'll let John describe what a Muscle Up is. You want to do that now?
So maybe just one quick slide. Everybody knows what a pull-up is, right? That's a really good pull-up.
Yeah.
Probably a chest-to-bar pull-up, right? And that's the way we thought about the project. We named it Muscle Up because Reebok had already done all this work that I described. It was like, okay, we're pretty fit, we have a pull-up. But there's another step in the progression that you go from a pull-up to a muscle up, which is when you can pull yourself up on the bar to here, right? So you can do that in one motion, right? And it's harder. That's, by the way, Sarah. She works with me on my team. And that's, that was kind of the metaphor for us, was that we had to get that much fitter as a business. It's not that we were bad, it was just that we had to get even fitter.
Yeah.
So a muscle up.
So really at the heart of the program was, how do we build a company that, one, grew at the same pace as the industry? Our industry is a growth industry, right? A lot of companies around the world are happy with 2, 3, 4% growth. Our industry, on average, over the last 5 or 6 years, has grown at 6 to 8%, and many companies are growing at double and triple that. And so, how do we grow at these same paces, but also become on par from a profitability perspective with all of our competition? And we got into this transformation effort in 2016, and realized there wasn't a one-size-fits-all, one thing that was going to really move the needle. I remember walking into our president's office and said, hey, we can't fix this just by cutting costs, right? We could have cut almost every cost, and it would have gotten us to the ambition that we wanted to. And so we really had to rethink the way we did everything, and we also had to rethink how we did it. And one of the things that we've instituted is what we call our transformation office. Our transformation office is our process, our procedure for managing this work. And kind of at the heart of it is we do everything week by week. So yesterday, I spent 8 or 9 hours locked in our transformation room, and we run work stream after work stream. I think we're running 14 or 15 of them right now, and we go through status updates every week. We've learned that we have to go fast, right? If we wait, set this up in the traditional, hey, we'll have a steerco meeting in 4 weeks or 8 weeks or a quarter, as humans, we all procrastinate. And we found that by going week by week, holding people accountable for delivery of things and delivery of tasks, we've actually moved really, really fast. We've been able, and maybe we get into a few of the details, but over the course of about 15 months, improve our operating margin by 8 points.
So maybe think about some questions that you guys have, and we can get the guys with the microphones going. But I'll ask this question for you. What have been the key drivers of that 8 point? Like if you had to pick 2 or 3 areas that we really made the big impact on?
Yeah, so the biggest one is a program we call Design to Value. And one of the things when we'd done our research through our program was we had to increase our gross margin. And just before I get into the details, our gross margin rate over the last 15 months is up 8 points, right? And so we've been able to drop that fully to the bottom line. We've also done this without raising a single price. So what we did was we actually encouraged our design, our product community. How do we take our input prices down? This is the only path home. And so what we've done is we've really built a new procedure, a new process to how we design, develop our products for our consumers. And we felt that there was a way to become smarter, use technology to actually gain insights from our consumers through our process. So our process historically had been very much inside of our four walls. Our people did get out and travel, but probably not enough. We weren't using some of the technology that is now out there to gain insights. And what we've been able to do is essentially take our input prices down by about 10% over that course of that 15 months. And we've done this without harming the product. In cases, a specific example, we have one of our best, I don't know what you got up there, but one of our best selling apparel products. We took a product out to test with our consumers one day, and we were using a name brand fabric, Lycra, which many of you probably have heard. And we went out and tested this with consumers, name brand versus a generic. The cost per yard was about $1.50, right? And we went out and took this out to consumers, and consumers didn't care. The consumers didn't care about the name brand, and the feel of the fabric was exactly the same. We made this change, just a rolling change. Nobody really knew. We didn't advertise the name brand fabric. And we saved about $1 for every garment. We're selling millions of this, right? So there's just one garment, one example of things we've done smarter, changed the way our people think, and has had a massive change and massive effect on our P&L.
One of my favorite examples was that we bonding. Bonding of seams, like this is a true seam, but you can do it in a bonded way, and it costs more to do it. And we had been bonding the insides of pockets of shorts, so no one could even see it. It made no difference, and it cost $4 to do it. It was like, yeah, that was a crazy one. That's a layup, I think, to get rid of that one.
I don't like talking about that one. That one gets me hot.
Yeah, that one was dumb.
Because when you put bonding in a pocket, does the consumer see it? Do they get any benefit out of it?
Yeah.
Why do it?
Yeah. All right. So, any questions out here? Right here.
So I just wanted to say congratulations. Great project results in getting that kind of return on your project. Are you using a Scrum methodology for your project management? Well,
the way that we run this is, and I'm happy to share details. We actually have a kind of and we don't have the slides, but a kind of a 5-step process where we use we start off with what's the idea, right? In the case of the margin topic, we knew we had to fix the margin topic. And then we get into, okay, the very first thing is, all right, what's the size of the prize? And literally myself and a couple other people sat in a room for an hour. What's the size of the prize? And piece of paper, 100 million, right? And then we write a business case around it. What's the business case? And then this is where we get into the detail, really figure, okay, can we take that 10% out? And then ultimately, we get into a project management mode where after the business case is done, then we break this business case down into initiatives and action items. So ultimately through our program and over the last 15 to 16 months, we ran about 15 work streams and had with thousands of action items. And one of the things that what really benefited from this is each one of these action items, they have a due date, they have an owner, and we run this as inside of our transformation office every Wednesday, where every one of these action items, if they're late, they gotta come in and explain why. And it's what it's done is it's created this cultural change in our company of go fast, no excuses for being late. We're not late anymore because they don't like coming in and explaining why they're late. And so it is similar to a Scrum, but it's very, very much made toward a transformational process that allows us to go fast and work across several topics all at once. So, I described the. You have more question?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So that's great. The concern with all the type of projects you're talking about is, do you use external staff or internal staff? And if you're using internal staff and you've grown them, what do you do when the project's done? But many companies have gone to create like areas of excellence that they continually look for changes and upgrades. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. So we started with 10 topics that we're going to change our P&L, and now what we've done is. Everything we do, every project, whether it's consumer facing or inside the P&L fixes or process changes, we run inside this. And when we first started this, we actually started with some externals because this was something we needed to learn how to do. And today we run this with 5 very talented internal people.
Okay, another question.
So my question for Craig is, you talked about you've had diverse roles within the organization, and that helps you glean information from the financials. For CFOs who have not had the opportunity to work within marketing or sales or R&D, are there strategies that you can share to help them figure out how best to get that information from the numbers?
Well, one of the things I pride myself on is two things. I'm inquisitive, right? I'm like my, I guess she's not so little anymore, but when she was 4, why, right? Like, don't be afraid of asking the why, and but then it's also building that relationship. Like, John and I have spent time traveling the world together and building those relationships with people, but also ensuring your teams are building those relationships with people so they get invited into the room. Right? You want them in the room, but to overhear those conversations. And so it's that relationship building and it's asking the why, right? The more you ask why, the more people are going to tell you why. And you also got to not use that why against them, right? Because sometimes you're going to get an answer, you're going to be like, oh, right? But you have to, otherwise if you use it against them, you don't get invited back. And so you have to figure out how you partner with the people, how you help them solve their problems along the way.
All right, so let me, all right, we'll take another one from.
I can't see.
Yes, hi, thank you, and very impressive. Question for you, you're touching on it a bit. Clearly the initiative is very much focused on connecting the enterprise to the consumer or the customer experience. But as we all know, enterprises that align the customer experience and the employee experience grow top line, bottom line, and shareholder value much faster than everybody else. But it's tough to do. So what is Reebok doing to attempt to create that alignment across the enterprise, even though this is really the pilot with some immediate results and liftoff?
You, me?
Go for it.
Okay, so
you're the star.
One of the things what I would say is at the heart of what we do is our people. And we've had a challenging last 18 months. We've asked a lot of our people, whether it is, many of you know, we've relocated our headquarters, which John can get into in a little bit, and we've asked them to change, right? And we've asked them to change hundreds of things. And part of this is with this transformation, one of the things that we've done and we realized very early on was our people had to be a part of it, right? One of the easy things was to go hire McKinsey or Boston Consulting or somebody and write them a check, hey, help us do this. And we realized very early on, and we got some really good guidance from some people who have done these projects as well, that if your people don't change, you'll fail, right? And so you have to make them a part of the change. And you have to motivate them, through multiple ways, whether it be financial or learning opportunities, to be a part of it. And if they're not a part of it and don't want to change, you will fail. And so what we've done is, throughout all of our work we've done in the last 15 months, we've had, about 3/4 of our people involved in this transformation from one project to another. And we purposely go out and seek people out because we want them to be a part of the change. We want them to feel a part of it. We want them to own it ultimately, right? Because if it's something that's driven by executives or by a bunch of consultants, we knew we would fail. And what this has done is really created a real positive energy of change. It's also created a cultural change of executional excellence. When I joined Reebok 5 years ago, one of my frustrations was it was a company of creatives, and that's not a bad thing, right? We need people who want to create. But when you use the word execute or process or procedure or calendar or, hey, we need you to be on time, everybody wanted to hide behind the chair. And one of the things that we've really worked on is executional excellence. And through this change, through enrolling our people into it, by them seeing wins, it's actually really created a really awesome positive energy in our organization.
So maybe just to add to that, we measure our employee net promoter score. We do it with consumers outside, but we also do it internally. And listen, there's always a lot of different factors that go into this, but since we've turned the corner and seen the results on this, our net promoter score has gone up very dramatically. And it may coincide also with our move to Boston, so there's other contributing things going on, but it's clear that sometimes you wonder, does having a great employee culture lead to better results, or sometimes does better results lead to happier employees? I mean, there's a little bit of a two-way street there, right? And we're seeing that though happen right now, that people are feeling good about where we're going. I want to take you, because we started to talk about some of the key drivers, and we talked about design to value and product margin being one of them. Talk a little bit about the retail landscape and what we did there.
Yeah, so the retail landscape, for those of you who live in the retail world and or read the Wall Street Journal, et cetera, it's a tough landscape today, not only in America but around the world. And one of the things that we've done as a part of Muscle Up was, how do we improve our distribution mix? And if you pick up the Adidas company results over the last couple of quarters, you'll see the storytelling of, hey, Reebok isn't growing at the same pace as the other brand, but it's on purpose, right? We have purposely taken out hundreds of millions of business. One, to fix the profitability, but also just to ensure premium execution of the brand around the world. Classic example of this was we've closed 60 stores in America. We've closed a couple hundred in Russia, and countless others around the world, just to ensure premium execution and premium profitability. But when we look around the retail landscape, right, we all know it's tough. I think the last stat I heard is we were projecting about 8,000 to 9,000 storefronts closures in America this year. Right, this is a landscape that I often think when we wake up in 2022, 2023, it's going to much look like the retail landscape does in the UK, where there's really two dominant retailers. And today, I can't predict who those two will be. I have a pretty good idea, but it's a very challenged landscape. It's also moving online, right? We all know the behemoth that is Amazon today. They will dominate, will continue to dominate the space over the course of the next decade or two.
So most important channel right now for the future in terms of growth for us?
E-commerce, digital.
Okay. So, all right. So you talked also about creativity. If you'll indulge me, we brought along another video that I think gives you a sense of the importance of that in our culture. So let's take a look at, guys, if you don't mind, we'll take a look at daring.
The crazy ideas, the risk-taking, it's always been part of our DNA. That's what drove us to first pound nails into a shoe and come up with this, and do this. This is what it means to be daring. It's why we always join forces with the game changers out there.
So I'm using this video in a little bit of a different way because I want to get at, you're living in a world of like, we've got designers and crazy marketeers, and we've got any given week Ariana Grande or Victoria Beckham walking through the place, and it's just this bold, and we want people to be bold, imaginative, uninhibited. And how do you work in that culture as CFO?
Well, I think the first thing, and it's kind of a funny thing, right? Finance guys can be creative, right? Now, you say that sometimes, and you might get people like looking at you like, no, I don't think so. And there's a time and a place, right, to be, follow every law, follow every rule, be exact. And then there's a time and a place where close is close enough, right? We sometimes spend a lot of time and energy burning through data, burning through analysis to make it perfect when it just needs to be directional. And one of the things I really try and promote through my team is guys, got to close the books. Yeah, I need to be perfect, but when you're trying to help the business make a decision for 5 years from now, the world's going to change 20 times between now and then. Let's get it directional so they can make a decision, but let's not burn millions of calories doing it. And so there's this fine line around being perfect, being directionally correct, but then also how do we live inside a creative environment and not squelch creativity, right? We want to promote it. We want to ensure we're going fast. And one of my times at Reebok, I remember having our creative director in my office one day, and he said to me, he's like, we can't run this business by a spreadsheet. And we were fighting over margins. And you remember this story, John? Yep. And we were fighting over margins, and it actually got pretty emotional, right? He believed that we needed to overbuild product, we needed to have be premium in all places, and this was a place where we actually had to reach we ultimately left that meeting in a disagreement around, hey, what's best, high margins and price accessible product, and high cost product and low margins. And we left this in a disagreement, and ultimately ended up on the desk of our president. And this is an example of where sometimes finance and creatives aren't going to come and see eye to eye. And ultimately, as we fast forward 3 or 4 years, the P&L won out in this argument, right? The P&L, the necessity for great product and great margins won out. And we found a way to do this in a much better way rather than having the finance guy and the creative director in a fight.
Good one.
Yeah.
All right, so another part of the project for us, Muscle Up, was that we also moved. And maybe I'll flick through some slides, but you talk to us about why we moved.
I think, John, you should take this one. You actually led this one.
All right.
You should take this one.
So we were in Canton. We were country mice in Canton, Massachusetts, and now we're city mice in the Seaport area, Boston. And there's, for our business to be where the energy is of the city, the innovation district, the opportunity to change up our culture through the space that we work in, to make it more collaborative, to make it more open. We actually have a setup right now where nobody has an office in the building, from the co-op entering the building that hopes to meet Reggie Jackson or Ariana Grande, all the way to the president. There's no offices, and there's actually no set space. You could sit with, there's neighborhoods, but there's no chair that is yours each and every day. And that has changed the collaborative nature of the company, the speed. What we're finding is through research is that formal meetings are down, informal meetings are way up, and we can handle in 5 minutes instead of, today, right now, instead of setting up a meeting for an hour next Tuesday or something like that. So the change has been profound. Of course, we're a fitness company, so we have incredible fitness facility as part of it. We put in some innovative programs in the fitness facility too. One of the things that we do, which is a lot of fun, is that we charge people $75 a month for the fitness facility. This is a gym that's a $300 a month gym with all kinds of the best coaches in the world, CrossFit and all different kinds of classes. It's $75 a month for our employees, but every time they go to the gym and use the gym, they get $7.50 off. So 10 times, you're finance people. All right, so I tried to argue to Craig. I used it 20 times in March, and I said, Craig, you owe me $75. Nope. So then also, as part of the gym too, we thought it was really important to have a formal dispute resolution area. So we put that in as well. But in reality, everybody wants to train like they're a fighter now. Nobody fights, but they all want to train like a fighter. And this is actually, there's more women doing this than men. So it's a lot of fun to be in this space. We put in a flagship store in the space as well, and it's been a ton of fun. And one of the things I do want to also touch upon, where are we, about 10 minutes or so to go? Is about right? Yeah. So maybe just to quickly touch upon also, because we hit a couple of the key things, but growth is a key part of our plan too. And one of the areas we talked about that we're focused on e-com, there are key markets that we're focused on. We have an incredible opportunity in China to grow, so we're in the process of opening 500 stores in China, which is a big, big deal for us. But within our target consumer area, women. It's a real blue ocean in the industry. The industry serves, typically it's 25% of the product sold to women and 75% male, but that doesn't make any sense, right? Because women work out as much as men do. And as a result, maybe one last video, I'll show you the 6 people that are going to be in an ad that we're going to run fall, late summer. So let's take a look at this last one. It's a quick one.
I haven't seen this one.
So one of the rules at marketing at Reebok is you always play music that's much cooler than you are. So anyways, anything you want to add on the topic of the women's opportunity for us?
No, I think at its core, women, obviously make up 50% of the population, but in the research we do, we know they make up between 60 and 80%, depending on the country, of the purchasing decisions in households. Mine personally, it makes 100%, but even if you're buying men's product or kids' product, the women are making the purchasing decisions, and this is why it's really kind of a blue sky opportunity for us as we move forward.
We should add too that we're not particularly representative of our company because from a standpoint, it's well more than 50% of our
60.
company is women, right?
Yeah, 60% today.
60% of our company is women. Well over 60% of the people in the CrossFit gym are women. Well over 60% of the people doing combat training are women. And right now our leadership team is 50% female and 50% male. So. In addition, and with a lot of Craig's leadership, we have essentially arrived at pay equity,
Yes.
For male and female as a company too. So, what other questions do you all have? Right.
I actually have more of a comment. I worked at Reebok 20 years ago.
Wow.
And this is so refreshing to see that this company has gone the route that it's gone. I left Reebok because they told me, I worked for a VP of operations who told me a woman with a child could not work for him. So congratulations on taking a company that I thought would never make it because they were not changing with the way the world was changing to making it something that's viable today. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't work there anymore.
No. Yep.
I'll go out on a limb and take that
no
risk.
way.
I've got a question.
You have the microphone. Oh, you're good.
Oh, here. He's had a question for a long time.
This may require an answer from both of you as it's looking backwards as well as forwards. It's easy to understand how the synergies to the largest of the sports and fitness areas make sense. When I see the beautiful pictures of the OCR folks and my fellow CrossFitters, how did you first start to get involved with that, some would say second tier, and then, not in my mind, and then move on now to the great levels that you have and the brand loyalty that you've developed?
So, yeah, I think, and you're saying like, so things like how did we first decide to get involved with a partnership like CrossFit and all of that, or you know, we had a Spartan partnership, those kinds of things. And I think the key in our industry is to be authentic and real, and to be to have partners that reflect that reality. And we had actually, CrossFit is a really challenging partnership to develop because they, in many ways, didn't want to have a partner like that. It's kind of it's a bit of a, as you know, I see you nodding, it kind of has its own world and culture, but we had actually people in our building that were CrossFitters. And I think that really impressed them from the beginning, and we were very willing to be part of that culture and to build from the ground up. And I think we had some things to offer them in terms of helping to grow their brand as well. And like any good partnership, there's some give and take as you develop that. And it's been wonderful for us, and we hope to continue it for a long time, but it's key to have those authentic partnerships. And then for us as a strategy, we want to continue to have those, and we have others like Les Mills, and some of you will know who they are, but there's other partners that are in many individuals, like in that video, Katrin Davidsdottir is the fittest woman in the world, you know that. But then we also need to have amplifiers, and that's because nowadays in marketing, you tell your story so much through these tremendous people that have great followings on social media and otherwise. So to have the Gigi's and the Arianas really gives us a chance to expand and tell the story more broadly. They're endorsers, but they're also, on top of that, they're also media channels these days. You know, and that landscape of advertising has completely flipped, and how you market has really, that's changed dramatically over the last handful of years. And so we have partners that are true fitness partners, and then we have others that sort of amplify our story and make us fashionable too.
Craig, you mentioned that. Okay. I'm sorry. Craig, you mentioned that you see the future of the business being towards e-commerce, digital. Will there still be some sort of a retail presence where consumers want to sample the product, or at least become familiar with the product before they order or decide which kind of styles they would want to try? And I assume also you may have to deal with a returns situation where if people order online and they may order 2 or 3 different styles, choose the one they want and send back. Have you factored that into your cost model?
Yeah, so there still will be a business for brick and mortar stores in the world. In America particularly, if you look at America versus every other market, the square foot of retail is 4 to 5 times bigger than everywhere else, whether you're in Europe, you're in China, so on and so forth. And so there will be a contraction of space, and
Particularly here in this
here in this market, but there will still be the need, right? A lot of consumers want to touch and feel, right? But what they do today is they go touch and feel, then they get on their phone, where can I get it the cheapest, right? And the supply chains of all of our companies today are so good. We are all competing against the Amazon model. The Amazon, in a lot of markets, Boston, New York, LA, it can be on your doorstep in 4 hours, right? And so there still will exist, but we have to become digital. We have to become nimble and fast. And yes, the return topic is something we deal with. It is priced into our model. It is something we fight as a supply chain. But if you're going to compete with the likes of the Amazons, the Zappos, these type of guys who are world-class digital players, you have to do these things.
Guys, we have time for one more question.
Go ahead.
Hi, given the aging demographics, do you have any plans to market to, say, like the 50-plus crowd?
So we don't really differentiate so much on age. What we're looking for is, we didn't bring it along, but we call our target market the game changers. And they're people that are equally kind of into fitness and into, we call it like a street inquirer. They're kind of very fashion forward. And where that merges, we consider that the pinnacle of what we're targeting. So it's less of a media buy that's based upon ages and age groups, but more on the psychographic for us and interest of the area that we're getting into. So I like to consider myself part of the target market, yes. But as it turns out, probably more of them are honestly a little bit younger, but that's not how we think about it day in and day out. So in the spirit of wrapping things up, maybe in one phrase, what would you tell the 20-year-old Craig Thornton that ran into Reggie Jackson in the hallway in a phrase or two, future?
Well, I think as we all come out of college and 20, 21 years old, we think we know everything, right? How many people thought they knew everything at 21? Yeah, a lot of us. And I think the thing I've learned over the years is we're always learning. Every day is a learning opportunity. And sometimes we learn from non-traditional ways, right? I've learned things from creative directors that gave me a different view of life, different view of looking at things, and always take that opportunity to learn and open your eyes to different ways of thinking.
So with that, thank you very much. We're going to hand it over to Becky for your next speaker. Thank you, guys.